Well, good morning. How's everybody doing this Monday morning? This is the news that we are waking up to for Monday, February the 3rd, 2025, day 1076 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. Although it is worth pointing out that over the weekend, we actually saw day 4,000 of this war if we go back to the 2014 invasion of Crimea. 4,000 days this country has been at war, 1,076 of the full-scale invasion. Last night was not a bad night here in Ukraine. We saw 71 drones come in. 63 of the 71 were taken out, either shot down or with active electronic countermeasures. That's an 88.7% interception rate. But the weekend was a tough weekend, boy, for the Ukrainian people. Yes, it was. It started on Friday night with a large-scale missile and drone attack. The radio engineering troops of the Ukrainian armed forces tracked 165 enemy targets overnight. 56 of the 123 drones were shot down. 61 were taken out with electronic countermeasures. That's a 95% interception rate, 117 out of 123 drones. The remaining 42 targets were missiles. Now, the Ukrainian armed forces have not released how many missiles were shot down, which is not a good sign, right? And certainly the carnage that was created by these missiles that got through, especially the ballistic missiles, we'll talk about. So let's see, 14 Iskanders, right? Remember, 42 missiles here. 14 Iskanders, 8 X.101s, 10 X.5969s, and 2 X-31P, the guided missiles from the Black Sea. These came in from Tu-95 bombers and from tactical aircraft. There were also 8 X-22 missiles launched from Tu-25 backfire bombers, one of which struck a residential building in Poltava. 12 people are dead in that strike alone, and dozens are injured. Among the dead was an entire family, including this mother and daughter and the husband and father of this family. Odessa really took the brunt of the attack. According to Oleg Kipper, the head of the Odessa Regional Military Administration, 3 ballistic missiles in 3 waves struck the center of the city, home to multiple UNESCO World Heritage sites. There was a hotel that was hit where members of the Norwegian diplomatic mission to Ukraine were staying. It was hit using a unitary bunker-busting ballistic missile. The historic hotel was badly damaged. There were injuries and fatalities. It was noted by the head of the military administration that the air raid siren pattern of 3 to 5 minutes before the alert demonstrates how Ukrainians must use caution when those air raid sirens go off. There is very little time. Ballistic missiles and their trajectories and their re-entry speeds mean that from the time that an attack is confirmed to the time that you are safely in a shelter can be as little as 3 minutes these days. Even for somebody in the far west of the country like in Odessa, it was just 3 to 5 minutes between the first missile hitting and the air raid siren sounding. For your own safety, folks, there is no time to relax. 15 UNESCO World Heritage sites were destroyed or badly damaged in this attack on the center of Odessa. But that is not all. There were energy infrastructure in Zaporizhia, Odessa, Sumy, Kharkiv, and Klemensky regions, all hit, as well as residential areas in Sumy, Kherson, Odessa, and others. In Kramatorsk, there were another dozen people killed, although that death toll may yet rise, including 2 children, 7 and 9, over the weekend. The Ukrainians and the Russians cannot agree on who hit this evacuation shelter in Sudza, Kursk region. So this is a building in Kursk, inside of Russia. It's an evacuation point for Russians who want to leave the Ukrainian occupied territory. There were 94 Russian citizens trying to escape the occupied territory, buried in the rubble at this evacuation point. Now, who hit it? The evacuation point was staffed by Ukrainians, right? It's inside Ukrainian occupied space. The Russians are saying that the Ukrainians hit it. The Ukrainians, for their part, are showing off flight data for the Su-35 that they believe dropped the Fab 500 bomb on this building. And the Ukrainian armed forces are saying that we don't have those bombs. We don't have a bomb big enough to do the damage that was done in this attack. So it appears that this is the Russians hitting Russians in order to drive patriotism and enlistment, which seems to be failing badly. In the St. Petersburg area, the Russians had been recruiting as many as 250 people a day. Those numbers are down to less than 50 a day now, and they are almost exclusively migrants looking for Russian citizenship or prisoners looking to get out of jail. That's who's staffing the Russian army today. The Ukrainians, for their part, are not sitting down on the job. Friday night, they hit the Lukoil facility in Volgograd. Now, I want to be clear, because Lukoil does business in the United States, but so does Lukoil. And Lukoil, with an E, is a small American producer, right, in the Midwest. That's an American company, but Lukoil, with no E, Lukoil, is the Russian company. There are Lukoil stations all over America. If you're an American, don't pull into them. Do not put your money into a Lukoil business in the United States. These people all are our enemies, and every penny goes to murdering Ukrainians. So please, for the love of God, avoid Lukoil in the U.S. with no E. If it's got an E, fine. Now, this facility processes 7% of all of Russia's diesel fuel. 7% of all of Russia's diesel fuel. And diesel is so critical to this war effort, right? We see the Ukrainians targeting the hydro treatment plants, or the hydro treatment units of all of these diesel producing refineries these days. Why? That's how they're going to cut off the fuel to the tanks and trucks and APCs, etc. It's good thinking. The hit on Friday, according to Andrei Kovalenko at the Ukrainian Center for Countering Disinformation, severe damage was the result of this attack. However, that was not good enough for the Ukrainians because they double tapped it last night. It is on fire again. Not only that, also, the Astrakhan gas facility, which is nearby in Volgograd, was hit, including the Astrakhan gas condensate processing complex. Now, this gas facility is responsible for 12 billion cubic meters a year. Huge. Not only that, it was the gas condensate unit that was hit. Now, as I understand these things, and please, if you're in this industry, let me know if I've got this wrong. But as I understand it, those condensate units are for the production of liquefied natural gas, which is currently not under EU sanction. We know that they hit the LNG facility in Oleana all the way up near Murmansk. Oh, back, I don't know, but maybe 8 months ago, a while ago. And I don't believe that that facility has ever reopened. Here it looks like they're targeting yet another LNG facility for the processing of natural gas into liquefied natural gas. And that's smart because that product is not under EU sanctions, and the last thing you want is Russia making money selling that shit to the Europeans. Now, again, Ukraine was no slouch over the weekend despite having taken its punches. In Kursk, there was an ATACMS strike that destroyed the regional command and control center in Rilsk. The official statement from the Ukrainian General Staff read that this operation is part, quote, of an ongoing strategy to eliminate enemy command posts, disrupting their ability to effectively coordinate operations and logistics. The statement went on to say, operations aimed at destroying enemy command posts will continue until Russia's armed aggression against Ukraine is fully terminated. Now, this strike on this command post using ATACMS follows a strike just a few days before on a reinforced command and control post in Kherson that was hit with what we think was an M72 Copperhead. That's according to Militarnia, the Ukrainian military website. Now, the Ukrainian Rada, the parliament here in Ukraine, or Congress, has approved legislation to implement $2.44 billion in air defense from Great Britain. And so there's more to this story, and I'll go into the details on it in tonight's Live at 5. A perfect storm of bad weather, government policy, and a shortage in labor caused by drafting kids to go to the front, kids getting recruited into the military-industrial complex, and migrants afraid to come into Russia to work, saw the lowest harvest in Russia since 2021. This is for the 23-24 planting season. For 2025, it is expected that farmers will export 48 to 49 million tons of wheat exports. That's a drop of 9.7 million metric tons, or a loss of 17% of overall wheat exports, according to S&P Global Commodities Insights. Overall, grain exports are expected to fall sharply for the calendar year, and these years for agriculture go from July to June every year. And so overall exports are expected to fall sharply from 81.6 million metric tons for 24-25, down from 90.5 for the year previous, 23-24, or a loss of about 9.8%, nearly 10% down for the year. Finally, President Zelensky had a few things to say this weekend. And in addresses on Telegram and in a press conference, he stated that Russia attacked Ukraine 1,400 airstrikes last week alone. 50 missiles, 600 drones, and 760 glide bombs. Now, glide bomb attacks had been down, but they appear to be on the rise once again. Every day, Russia attacks us with missiles, drones, and aerial bombs, said Zelensky. Quote, Russia will not stop on its own. The world must force it to end this brutal and unprovoked aggression, end quote. After Trump commented that Russian and American officials were already in talks about the peace process in Ukraine, Zelensky said that any talks that leave Ukraine out would be, quote, dangerous, end quote. And I couldn't agree more. He also pushed for stronger sanctions against Russia and for a strict enforcement regime, saying, quote, we have to be absolutely honest with Russian terrorism. In every Shahed drone, every Russian missile are components manufactured in other countries. Simply put, Russia wouldn't be as strong without foreign complicity. And he is right. We would not be in this position had Biden had the will to see Ukraine win rather than just not lose. If the United States had delivered the $177 billion in aid it promised rather than a mere $76 billion. It's so embarrassing being an American these days. And that's it for me this morning. We will see everybody in the live tonight. There's a lot going on, and I'll have more on many of these stories and more tonight. See you then.